where I want to start is New Year's Day. New Year's Day, of course, you get the big games, big football games. You get I believe it's the Peach Bowl and the Rose. I mean, not the Rose. Is it the Rose Bowl? Peach Bowl and the Rose or Sugar Bowl, one of them two. We got Alabama and Notre Dame against Clemson and Ohio State. I don't really need to talk about the Alabama Notre Dame game. I mean, it kind of went exactly how we expected. Notre Dame Notre Dame really isn't good when it comes, or really hasn't shown that they belong when it comes into the college football playoffs. Every time they've gotten there, or every time they've played a big team, they've got destroyed. And while they didn't get destroyed against Alabama, the game wasn't as close as the score would project that it was. And that's one thing that I kind of took from that game was Alabama let Notre Dame linger a little too long. Not saying that they lost, of course. I'm not saying that they didn't handle business, because they definitely did. But yeah, Notre Dame got blasted. Devontae Smith and Harris, Mac. It just, Alabama's just good. You know what I mean? So I don't really need to spend time on that. What I do want to spend time on, what I do want to start my show with, was the Ohio State Clemson game. Now, a lot of things went into this game, especially when you look at some of the comments that came out before the game. You had Dabo Swinney, who was the coach for Clemson, coming out saying that Ohio State shouldn't even be in the top 10. They should be the 11th best team. You have, a lot of people, including myself, expected Clemson to win. And the reason why is because, one, to me, you have the best player on the field in Trevor Lawrence. A lot of people have him going number one overall to the Jags. You have a senior latent team on the offense and defense. And I just didn't think that Ohio State, was as experienced this year, at least, as Clemson was, seeing as though they only played 6 games. The Big Ten had to change some rules to allow them to be in the Big Ten championship against Northwestern, which they won. But what we saw New Year's Day in the Ohio State Clemson game was one team that was dominant and the other team that was dominated. Ohio State beat Clemson at every single level of the game. They beat them running the ball. They beat them throwing the ball. They beat them on the defensive line. They beat them on the offensive line. It's like, I say this all the time. Winning clouds your perception on a lot of things. We talk about, for the longest, we've talked about Pittsburgh Steelers, being 11-0, but I said that clouds a lot. Like, there's a lot wrong with Pittsburgh. And then once the losing started to come, or the 3-game losing streak came, you started to hear a lot louder, they have this going on with them. It's kind of the same with Clemson. Clemson has Trevor Lawrence. You have studs at the wide receiver position. You have Travis Etienne at the running back position. You have a lot of good seniors when it comes to the defensive side of the ball. But there's a lot wrong with Clemson. And there was a lot wrong with Clemson. And I was one of those people that thought that even though you have Trevor Lawrence and you have some of the pieces that you have on both sides of the ball, those problems were going to be superseded by the talent that they have. For instance, Clemson this entire year, their offensive line has not been good. They weren't good in the beginning of the year. They weren't good in the middle of the year, and they weren't good on New Year's against Ohio State. They're I don't know what it is, man. They're not good at protecting the quarterback, and the thing is, Ohio State's, deficiency was their defensive line. and their defense altogether, and it didn't show. But Clemson's offensive line has been bad this entire year. Oh, hold on. Another thing that we've seen from Clemson is their defense has been susceptible to big plays. And as we saw on New Year's, big play galore. Like hell, Justin Fields had 6 touchdowns. And and a lot of those touchdowns were bombs too. So again, Clemson, them winning really projected or really clouded a lot of their problems. But what did we see on Saturday? Or what did we see on New Year's? On New Year's, we saw Trevor Lawrence looked good, but he looked as good as the entire team, if that makes sense. The entire team didn't look good, but you can tell Trevor Lawrence was the best part of this team. You know, he while he did throw a couple interceptions or an interception, he did lose a couple fumbles. You know, it looked like I'm gonna say this. Clemson looked like they were outmatched in every way, shape, and form at every position. And I want to talk about Justin Fields for a second. We saw the big hit that, I don't know, I think his name is Skaskowski or something. The big hit that Skaskowski, I'm sure I'm saying your name wrong, so my fault. He lit up Justin Fields. I was surprised. Now they're still saying that there was no damage, but I was surprised that he didn't have a couple cracked ribs. He looked like he was out for the count, bro, when he got hit. And Clemson was already down, like 2 or 3 touchdowns before then. And I was like, ooh, yeah, Clemson might come back and take this after that hit. But then when I saw that Justin Fields did not, I think, he didn't miss a play after that. And came back and still, after that, he still threw like 3 or 4 touchdowns. That just shows, you know, that win didn't do much for Trevor Lawrence. I mean, let me say this. The loss didn't do much for Trevor Lawrence. I still think that Trevor Lawrence is going to go number 1 to the Jaguars. I think that what he's done in his entire career, only losing twice. He lost to LSU and he lost to Ohio State. I think what he's accumulated as a career still grants. I mean, he's still allotted to be number 1. But I think that this win did so much more for Justin Fields. The thing is, a lot of people were questioning, should Justin Fields be the second quarterback to be taken off the board? And you had people like the BYU quarterback. You had Texas quarterback. He declared for the draft, and a lot of people were saying he can go. You had so many people that were questioning, should Justin Fields go second? And I think that this not only solidified that he is the second best overall. I mean, let me say this. I think that this not only solidified that he can be good in the NFL, but there really shouldn't. I think that he is closer to Trevor Lawrence than the second best player is to him, if that makes sense. Now, no, again, I don't think that Justin Fields should go number 1 over Trevor Lawrence. I don't think that. But what I do think is the gap between Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields is a lot closer than a lot of people like to think it is. And again, I want to congratulate not only Justin Fields but Ohio State, because again, I didn't think they were going to win. I didn't think they were going to beat Clemson. I had Clemson win the entire thing. So shouts out to dude. Now I don't know. You know, let me not. I think that what I think is this. I think that we're seeing Alabama steamroll people, but I think that these teams are a lot more evenly matched than is being projected right now. I'll still take Alabama in the national championship, seeing as though that offense is clicking on all cylinders. However, I do think, like I said, Ohio State both offensively and defensively, is closer than a lot of people want to talk about to Alabama defensively and off. Well, let me say this: I don't think that I don't think Ohio State's offense is close to Alabama's offense, seeing as though they have, Weddle, I believe he might play, and that just brings on another wide receiver that can blow the doors off the roof. But I do think that, as a team, both teams are a lot evenly matched, or are more evenly matched than a lot of people want to say. But again, I want to shout out to Justin Fields and Ohio State Buckeyes for beating Clemson and making it to the national championship. Shouts out to Alabama for beating Notre Dame, making it to the national championship. Shouts out to Justin Fields, man. This just shows the grit that he has. Because let me tell you this: let me get hit like he got hit in that game. You probably wouldn't see me for solid 4 or 5 years. But he didn't miss a play, and not only did he miss a play, and you can tell, you saw him grimacing. You saw that he was hurt. And he was still dropping dimes. He was still sitting in the pocket. Yeah, again, his mobility was kind of hindered after that, but it wasn't like it didn't just go away. He played incredible. So again, shouts out to Justin Fields. Shouts out to the Ohio State Buckeyes. Now, what does this mean for Clemson? Do I think Clemson's going to fall off the map? No. I know Trevor Lawrence is going to go, but I forgot. I don't even know how to say the backup's name, but he can be a number 1 overall pick if he continues to nurture his game and Clemson nurtures him. But Clemson still has a top 5 recruiting class next year. I think Clemson's going to be right back where they are. I don't know if they'll win the national championship next year, but again, they're recruiting still top 5. They still have a lot of good players coming back. They do lose some good players. You do lose Trevor Lawrence. You do lose Travis Etienne. You do lose some of the seniors on the defensive side of the ball, but it's just a conveyor belt of talent, because as you lose some great players, you're getting some great players. So that's that.